Hello, I'm Lawton, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build your own image effects in Analog Efex in the DxO Nick collection. Now, Analog Efex does come with a great range of preset effects already. These use combinations of tools and filters which you can examine and modify in the right sidebar. Doing this will give you an idea of what each tool does and how they can work together. And you can use this knowledge to start building your own Analog Efex presets from scratch. Here's the image I'm going to work on, a perfectly ordinary photo I took just a few weeks ago. And here's my edited analog look, created using the double exposure filter, light leaks, a lens vignette effect, and a custom film type. So here's the first thing. You don't have to throw every single tool at your photos. You might think more is best, but it can just make your photos look messy. It's easy to get lost and confused in Analog Efex and end up with images spearing off in all sorts of different creative directions. My suggestion would be to start with a single dominant effect you want to apply and then add others if you think they help support this look. And you do this using the camera kit panel in the left sidebar, where you can select exactly the filters you want to add. In this case, I know the double exposure filter will work well because it gives a kind of kaleidoscopic effect that will emphasize the patterns of the windows and columns in this picture and give a feeling of movement and light. The double exposure filter has a gadget which you can use to resize, move or rotate the second exposure, and over in the sidebar you can control its strength. Here's a quick tip incidentally. To modify the settings for any filter you've already applied, click any blank area of the filter panel to highlight it in grey. Now, looking at this double exposure effect, I think adding a light leak will intensify the feeling of light and movement in this photo, so that's my next step. I can try a few different types to judge the effect, and you do have to try them out on the image itself to judge properly. Is that all? No, I think I'll go a little further and add a lens vignette. This isn't useful solely for giving the look of a vintage lens with corner shading. It also has a strong compositional effect, focusing attention on the subject, and it also adds tonal depth and contrast. I'll finish with a custom film type. These come in different categories, and you can think of them as combining a color grading effect with film grain. So why not start with the film type first? It seems like a pretty basic adjustment for building on. That's true, and it does make sense if you're creating a black and white image or a toned black and white effect. But for color images, I often leave this to the end, mainly because the default film type looks are quite subtle and hard to judge on their own and only come to life in combination with other filters. One of the reasons for this is that the default settings are quite mild. Initially, the strength is set to 50%, and you might have to push it right up to 100% to get a strong enough effect. Annoyingly, if you do change the strength and then choose another film type, it resets to 50%, so you have to keep remembering to change it to your preferred value. The film type panel also has a fade slider, and this is interesting because it fades the solid black tones to a washed out grey tone and pulls back the highlights to a dulled off-white too. This sounds like a disaster, but it's actually a very effective and attractive way to give a soft retro feel to an image. Just don't look at the histogram. There's one more slider of interest in the film type panel, the grain per pixel slider. Analog Efex does produce a very nice grain effect, but this slider operates in exactly the opposite way to what you might expect. At its maximum setting, you won't see any grain at all, and it's only as you reduce the value that the grain starts to appear. Why? I've no idea. Now, through all of this, you'll see that there's a basic adjustments panel always available at the top of the right sidebar. Here, I'm going to use the detail extractor slider to make objects, shapes, and shadowed areas really leap out. And since this has increased the overall brightness, I'll pull back the brightness slider slightly. Now, after doing all this editing work, you might want to save your effects as a preset. Nothing could be simpler. Just click the Save Preset button at the bottom of the right sidebar and choose a name for your preset. It will then appear under the Custom tab in the left sidebar. So that's a quick guide to creating your own analog looks and presets in Nick Analog Efex. I do recommend that you pick a single main effect you want to achieve and then add others to support it or emphasize it. But after that, the world is your oyster. I hope you found this video useful and thanks for watching. See you next time.